try to actually see what southeastern flank of NATO actually is. Because there is no, in historical documents or strategic documents, there is no mentioning of that kind of, so to speak, area of interest. We also discussed what we can actually, or what the alliance can do when the countries go astray or just start pursue their own individual interests, which are conflicting with the alliance, and how far actually you want to give member states, how free you want to how much freedom you want to give them in, for example, pursuing their own geopolitical interests and goals. And we basically came up to a conclusion, and it's it's how it is. That there are no efficient mechanisms, to actually put any kind of, I don't know, to sanction them or kind of put them back into track. Among the specific threats, we also saw as already mentioned, migrants flow, state failures, radicalism.
We have now the situation that China is very innovative, and that they are a huge competition, and that we as liberal democracies have to figure out how we want to deal with this. So our values are very important for us. We all agreed on that, and now we have to figure out whether we will invest a lot in research and development of crucial technologies such as 5G, AI, quantum computing, and whether this is feasible, whether this is realistic, and also the question whether we should maybe keep our values so high that maybe we don't need to rush into every new innovation, but keep our values at our core, and then see that we keep up on the long run, but not necessarily jump into conclusions. The second question was, how can we govern cyberspace for companies and also government? Here the term surveillance capitalism is very important. So capitalism we liberals support and have supported, but what does it mean for surveillance? So here we have to find a stance between those two parts. And it is also important that you cannot limit a company in their business model to the point that they can't do their business anymore. But of course, there are certain areas where you have to decide, is regulation necessary? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it may not be that necessary.
In some sectors, some kind of protectionism is not necessarily something evil. For example, in the information space, for example, in the critical infrastructure. And what is happening usually is when China and Russia is coming to Western countries, closed societies are exporting their information technologies, their messages, their values in open societies. Open societies cannot do the same with closed societies. So what's happening, for example, you cannot open the equivalent of Russia today in Russia because the Western state, because they are all closed. It's like no foreign media can operate in Russia, for example. So when you deal, I think, with closed societies, with authoritarian societies, I think especially there are some legitimate claims why this kind of interference should be of higher scrutiny, because otherwise it can happen that the Chinese can have some good gifts that we can give you hundreds of computers, you can use them for free and so on, but finally they can have an access to all the data.
And recently, for example, we had these smart surveillance cameras installed throughout the main city in Belgrade, and the funny thing or the interesting detail is that all the information or the data is actually stored on the Huawei cloud.